How to set boundaries in boundlessness. A talk with Unmani.
Actually, boundlessness is who we are. This is our true nature. And this is not something that I suggest you just agree with me or believe in or something like that. This is something that you can investigate and know for yourself without doubt. You can check, where are my boundaries, actually? When I don't believe in my thoughts, where are the boundaries to who I am? Usually we believe that my boundaries are the edges of my skin. In other words, I'm located in here, and therefore the edges or the boundaries of who I am, the edges of the skin. But this is a belief that I am located in here. If I don't believe that, then I'm not located anywhere. Or you could say I'm just here. And even here is maybe even too much to say. The thinking will come with certain boundaries of time, for example. I'm here now, or tomorrow, or yesterday, or location, stories of me and my limitations. But when we don't believe in thoughts, and this doesn't mean that the thoughts should just stop. They won't necessarily just stop, but we just don't believe in them. So we don't give them so much attention. Then there is simply boundlessness. And of course, I'm using that word as a pointer. It's not a word for the thinking to grasp and say, yes, okay, and now I believe in boundlessness. It's beyond all words. And it seems that when we use words sometimes, that they can seem like boundaries. That's why sometimes we can also have a resistance to even using words when it comes to this recognition of who we are. It can seem almost as if every word is like a limitation, and actually our true knowing is beyond all of these apparent limitations. But when we know our true nature as that true boundlessness, that true freedom that's beyond all of these words, then we can use words. We can play in the playground of apparent boundaries and limitations. We can pretend that there are boundaries, or that we need boundaries, or that we could break free from limitations or boundaries. All the while knowing that there are never any boundaries, that I am always boundless. And this is the paradox of this theme for today, this how do we set boundaries in boundlessness? Because, of course, sometimes in our human experience, there is a need for boundaries. We might be in a situation where we feel it's too much for this human, right? This human is finding it overwhelming or feeling threatened in some way for whatever reason. It might be time to say, hang on a moment, this is too much for me. Or to say, well, okay, now I need time for myself, or time to rest. Or it might be a moment to say, I'm sorry, I don't like the way you're speaking to me or the way you're behaving with me. Or it's time to get out of a certain situation that you're in, or relationship, or circumstances, or environment. And this is absolutely okay to set these boundaries when we feel it's too much for this human. And it's time to actually protect this human, take care and nourish this human. And we can do that knowing that this is a play as if there are boundaries. And this can be quite confusing. I often hear from people that they've taken on this idea of boundlessness or freedom to mean that I should always just accept every situation and never set any boundaries. And this is more the intellectual way of taking on this knowing as a concept and a trying to do that. There's no need to try to do boundlessness because it's who you are. You don't need to do that. If you would need to do that, it would be a lot of effort. And that's what a lot of spiritual seekers are doing, right? You might recognize this for yourself, that you're making a lot of effort to become what you already are, which is a joke, actually. But at the same time, it's all that the thinking can do. See, when you recognize the boundlessness that is already here, this is the end of any need to do anything. It doesn't mean that you don't do things, but it's the end of the need to do something in order to become a certain state, which means that you are then free to play in the world of this human and the relative world in any way, right? And of course, it's happening out of control. So you're free to play, and yet this is the paradox of freedom anyway. It plays by itself, and in fact, you're watching the show. But still, within the play of it, there is the play as if there are boundaries sometimes. We can't walk through walls, right? There are certain limitations in our relationships with others. There are going to be certain boundaries that are very natural. Sometimes, if we overrun someone else's boundaries, we need to respect that. We need to take care of our own needs in this human play. And this is how we interact with others sensitively, right? We stay sensitive to what is needed moment to moment. And it's not a concept. It's feeling into what is real right now. Where is the energy flowing in this moment in this human experience? Does it feel too much? Do I need to take care right now of myself? Or if someone else says this is a boundary, it's time to also feel, okay, yeah, I can feel that that's a boundary now. Let's take a step back. And it's a wonderful play to stay sensitive to that in the play of the human experience. Knowing this paradox that is always here. Boundlessness and the play as if the boundaries are real. And actually, paradoxically, when we set certain boundaries in our relating or in taking care of this human, this actually enables a lot more freedom. Because as long as we are trying to please others, or we're running with other patterns where we are overrunning our own boundaries, actually, we don't feel free. It's an idea of freedom, but we don't really feel free. When we take care of the boundaries that are necessary for this human or the others in our lives, then actually we're free and we can really relax within those boundaries. And this is something you need to experiment for yourself in your own experience. Because when we state very clearly that this is too much, or this is overwhelming, or this is what I need, then there can be a deep relaxation in that. When we are honest and transparent, open, real, in a sensitive way, this brings a sense of freedom for this human in this play of experience. And when this human feels more free in the play, then there's more living of that boundlessness within the play of apparent boundaries.